so I met my sweetheart. The sweetheart became a nightmare. It's gotten worse. Expectations are just resentments waiting to happen. My name is James Newman. I'm from the UK, London, but I came to Bangkok when I was 24 years old.
What makes you stay here for so long? What do you like about Thailand?
What I like about Thailand,
Yeah.
I came here as a kind of budding writer, fiction writer, novelist. So, number one, there was a lot of content. There was a lot of stories. People were acted and behaved in a different way to they behaved back home. So that was immediately engaging and entertaining. And plus, there was a fiction writing community here back in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s. Very similar to what we have now with the YouTube kind of scene. There was a lot of kind of self-start content creators, but they were creating on the page, in print, rather than on camera. So it was easier to kind of get my voice heard. As an expat, it normally is. We form these kind of smaller artistic communities where it's easier to kind of get recognized than it would be, say, in London or, New York or in a Western city, let's say.
Okay, so that's what brought you here. And what do you enjoy the most about your life in Thailand? What do you like?
I love the early mornings. I like getting up about 5 or 6 when it's still really cool. You see people going to work. You see this kind of wave of humanity, of commerce, people selling stuff on the streets from market stalls. It reminds me, even though I can't remember, it reminds me of what I think Victorian London might have been like. We had blind ballad singers, we had beggarly professions. You would see this kind of commerce on the street, people selling their wares. There's no a lot of the support mechanisms that we have in the West are non-existent here. So there's a real kind of energy in the city to get by day and survive.
Cool. Any dislikes, some things that could be better or improved in your daily life in Thailand?
Dislikes? No. Let me think. The traffic's a bit of a headache. It can be, but there's ways around that. I see my 22, 23 years of living here. I like to try and beat the traffic and find different methods of transportation rather than, I've got a car, but I could never sit in a traffic jam in a car. Get on the boat, get on a motorcycle taxi, ride the BTS, the MRT. There's ways around these things. But as far as the people are concerned, I have no complaints. I love living in this kind of country as an expat, because you don't have to follow some of the rules of society that the locals do. You can kind of be in the outside looking in, which is good for a writer and a content creator like yourself. And you get given get given a lot more freedom than you would do as a local. So there are no complaints.
Okay, you've been here a long time. Would you say you've adjusted to the heat and the humidity of
No, it's gotten worse. The older I get, the less adjusted I am. So. I'm probably getting a bit heavier as well, so that doesn't help. But no, we get December, we have 3 weeks of cool weather, and the rest of it is just intense. Like today, we're going into Songkran, which is the hottest time of year.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you always lived in Bangkok, or did you travel around Thailand?
Koh Samui for 2 years. Nakhon Ratchasima and Pak Chong, just outside in Khao Yai. The hairdressers, the barbershop I went to yesterday, I remember taking my kids there when they were 2, 3 years old. The middle son is now 20, and he has his own son. So we're third generation immigrants.
Wow.
And the barbers are still the same, still the same guys cutting their hair. And they ask me, where how my kids are doing. I'm like, dude, Ben Puyay Lao. They're all grown up,
Oh, so can you speak Thai?
yeah. I can speak and understand
Do you think you
what's
get
going on.
a bit more respect from the locals knowing how to speak Thai here?
Um, Definitely, yeah. I think it's. I mean, I learned to speak uh, pretty much because I needed to know what was going on. In my early years, I taught as a substitute teacher,
Yeah,
and I found the only way I could control a classroom is if I knew what they would talk. I knew what the students were talking about. So
yeah,
um, there's no good telling a group of students to be quiet if the conversation they're having is something to do with the work in hand, or maybe they're saying, I really like this teacher, and then you tell them to shut up. You can't you
yeah.
can't go down that route. So you have to know what's being said around you. And I found the perfect way to do that. First of all, I would take one word and I'd put it in my wallet, and I'd intend to use that word in conversation, whether it's in the market or on the bus. And I would get the public bus, and I would listen to people speaking, and I would eavesdrop in that conversation. And I remember thinking I was getting pretty good about 10 years ago, and a blind man sat next to me on the bus, and we had a conversation in Thai, and he. After a few sentences, he said, "You're not Thai." So that is, yeah, it's not as good. It's never as good
Yeah.
as you think it is. But then you get to a stage where we're always learning. I mean, we're always learning English, right? Too.
Okay, we'll have a drink and I'll ask you a question after that. That's a great, man.
Okay, I have a YouTube channel as well,
Oh,
Strange
so
TV. And if you're listening, Heineken Zero, we are looking for sponsorship.
I meant to ask you this earlier because you mentioned having kids. So are you married here? You're single? What's going on with relationships and all that?
Oh well, that's an interesting one. I got married when I was here quite early. I came in 2001. I think I was married in 2002 or three. So I met my sweetheart, and the sweetheart became a nightmare. So we got divorced, and I went to court, and I won custody of my kids. So I was a single father with two young children, and then I met my current partner, who also had a son and was also single. The father had disappeared back to the west. So we became a family of five about 17 years ago or something, and have remained a unit since. And we never got married because we always fought. I'm sure Paul won't mind me saying this. She always thought her husband was still out there, and she still had the paperwork that they were married. But recently, I did a deep dive online, and I found out he had died in 2012 or something. So she's actually been a widow.
I see. Both your partners, were they Thai?
Yeah, both from Thailand.
And what's that like dating, being married, or even being in a long-term relationship with a Thai woman? Cultural differences. I'm sure a lot of men would love to have some kind of insight about being in a relationship with a Thai woman.
Uh, yeah, I think it's a difficult one to answer, Alex, because I think personally that women are pretty much the same all across the world, and I
Yeah.
think men are pretty much the same all across the world too. Uh, Women have similar traits. They want to be protected. They want a male to lead. They want to be secure. They want to have someone who's loyal. So all these traits and attributes and characteristics are similar with women, I think, all around the world. But the trouble is that a lot of guys come to Thailand or the Far East, the Philippines, wherever, and they fall in love with the country and think that there's something completely alien and different about it, and that different rules exist, and they end up becoming disillusioned, disappointed when their expectations are not met, and expectations are just resentments waiting to happen. So I think if you're successful in life, successful in love, in business, then you'll be fine here too. Or you come here really young, like we did, and you just kind of wing it.
Just wing it and see what happens. Okay.
Wing it as it goes.
What is it that you do? How do you make a living here in Thailand?
Well, I work as I teach media arts, design, technology at an international school. I make films, I make music videos. I just finished a documentary. Um, I used to survive just from writing, so I published like 10 books and they still sell, but not as much as they used to. There's been a migration from print media to digital media, and I kind of hopped on that about 5 or 6 years ago. Uh, but I always like to have the security of an institution. I worked for Ram Campaign University for a long time. That solves the visa, work permit, um, health insurance,
Mhm.
and everything else is taken care of. So yeah, it's living in Asia is about having different fingers and different pies. So um, yeah, I would always encourage kind of full-time employment and then pursuing other loves, passions, interests on the side.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about loves, passions, interests. Do you see yourself ever going back to the UK, or do you think Thailand is your new home and you're going to be basically here for long term?
I love both places. For me, Thailand is Bangkok, especially, is chaos. It's a chaotic city. Things happening out of control. London is very ordered, and I think you need order and you need chaos in life. So yeah, I could certainly see myself going back at some point. Um, Sometimes I think the guys that have it really sussed out are the ones who do like 6 months in the West, 6 months in the East. They mix it up. But yeah, if I went back, I'd have to go back for like 5 years.
Okay. And what's a common mistake you see a lot of foreigners, tourists, expats make when they come to the Philippines, when they come to Bangkok or Thailand?
Living above the second floor.
Above the second floor of a bar or club, you mean?
That was the one piece of advice I got when never live above the second floor. There's a phenomena in places like Pattaya
Mhm.
of Farangs and foreigners joining what they call the Jomtien Skydivers Club and flinging themselves off of balconies. So yeah, it is. What's the most common mistake? Why do these people throw themselves off balconies? They run out of money. They don't have a safety net. They burnt their bridges back home. They probably have kids back home. They stop paying child support. They don't have a full-time job. The girl doesn't really love them. So the biggest mistake, I guess, could be not learning the language, relying, trusting people to guide you through this vortex, this cryptic maze of a foreign country. Um, so yeah, my advice would just be to investigate and you know grab as much information as you can, and don't do anything here you wouldn't do back home.
Speaking of that, I personally have noticed a slight increase in misbehaving foreigners or people that just, I don't know if it's social media, the ease of access and information being passed around. Have you noticed a change in the way foreigners behave here in Thailand compared to when you first got here about 20 years ago almost?
I would say by and large, the foreigners that we see now in Bangkok are more cosmopolitan. There's a lot more female expats, which is great. A lot more people come here for um, the economic migrants a lot of the time. They get better positions, better jobs here than they have. Uh, Bad behavior. No, I would say I saw just as
Just as
much back
much,
then,
huh?
perhaps more.
Okay.
But then again, I was a lot younger and maybe um, mixed in those circles more.
Gotcha. Now, earlier you mentioned YouTube, you mentioned publishing books. Tell us about some projects, some documentaries you mentioned, YouTube channel.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
tell us a bit more about that. How can people find your stuff?
So we recently finished a documentary called Bangkok, City of Angels, which uh, is a kind of historic and sociological study of Bangkok, the city, like a biography of the city from 1820 in 1820 there was a cholera outbreak in the city, and one of the temples, Wassiket, they would have sky burials. There used to be vultures in the sky in the city of Bangkok, and the vultures would feed on the cholera victims. We go from that all the way up to COVID in 2020. And in between, we look at the Vietnam War, we look at the legalization of cannabis, we look at the Second World War, and diplomatic relations between Thailand and the rest of the world throughout that period. So that took me 3 years. And I finished it like literally last week. So yeah, we're going to go to market with that soon. It will hit the festivals probably this year or next year, and hopefully will be available to kind of download or buy before the year is out. So that was a major undergoing 43-minute documentary, Bangkok City of Angels.
Imagine. So that's your project. That's the documentary. You mentioned a YouTube channel as well. Do you post it regularly? What kind of content?
So yeah, sorry, Strange TV. I think it's Strange TV 4635. I think is the actual address.
Okay.
So on it, I do a lot of short films. So I just did a Western in Cambodia, black and white, short film Western. I'm doing a science fiction cyberpunk story based on a Greek mythological tale. And I tried to do most genres. So what else have we got there? We got a crime 22-minute short film that won a bunch of awards. I interviewed John McAfee. We interviewed, who was the lizard guy as well? Conspiracy theory character.
The guy that thinks people are lizards, right?
English dude.
Hancock. I forgot his name, but I think I know who you're talking about. The name escapes me right now.
Yeah, it was a big scoop at the time. Anyway, he used to feel like Wembley Stadium doing these talks and stuff. Yeah, we'll put a link in.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be sure to include that so people will go ahead and check it out. And that's it, man. I want to thank you for being here. I'll be sure to include all those links, pages, and people can go ahead and follow you on those social media platforms.
Great to meet you, and have a very happy Songkran.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Can't wait.
Cheers.
Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of James's story. Anything you want to share. If you take your time to write it, I will take your time to respond. And go ahead and check out his YouTube channel, his website. Show him some love. Show him some support. Tell him Alex sent you. And I'm bringing these videos to you guys so you guys can compare some things in the Philippines and Thailand. Any videos, wherever I travel, I try to do some interviews. So you guys coming to these countries, whether it's for vacation, retirement, whatever the reason is, relationships, you have a lot of information you can compare or maybe make decisions and make your life a little bit easier. If you enjoyed it, take a quick second, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, maybe consider checking out my daily news and now stories channel about the Philippines in the comment section called Asia Now. I've left a link to that as well in the description, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.